Hi, everybody. Today I have a super awesome special guest, one of my favorite person in the world. She is Sasha Digiulian. I'm pretty sure I just ruined her last name, so we'll have her say it right in a second. She is pretty much the most known female climber in the world. She is the first woman to climb a 9A. She is the first woman to do over 31st Ascent. But on top of that, she has a degree in Nonfiction Writing and Business from Columbia University. She's part of Women's Sport Foundation. She does it all. She helps everyone. She is not only an amazing athlete, but she's an amazing businesswoman and writer, and I am so stoked to have her with me so we can talk about everything that exists in the world. Hi, you're here. They see you now.
Everything that exists in the world we'll talk about.
Everything that I know, at least, and everything that you know.
I have numbers for you. You're like, oh my gosh, and listing your stats, there are so many different numbers that go along with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like within climbing, there's like this grade scale that's like 9A, like 514, whatever, and people are like, what does that even mean?
I mean, when you go from like numbers to letters, it's like, what's wrong with you? I went climbing with you a couple of times and some of my friends, and I'm like, just tell me what to do. I don't know.
Yeah, we had so much fun. Remember just like even going up behind your house and rapping off at the top of China Doll, and that was so much fun. I can't wait till we can get back out there.
I'm legit sweating with you just mentioning what we've done. So I am a zero experience climber. I'm just an all-in say yes type of person because I want to live my life fully. So Sasha has a podcast. It's called 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. So please go see it. It looks so good. She has the best personality and it's really, really well done. So we did a podcast together, and I'm zero experience. And do you want to tell them what you made me do? Because I can't. I don't know any of the technical term.
Yeah, sure. 10 a.m. on Tuesday is basically just like an adventure video series, and I play it on my YouTube, and the purpose is to just like get outside with different athletes and to showcase some of the adventures that I do around the world. And Camille, you were such an awesome part of it this last spring. We essentially hiked to the top of a cliff and then wrapped down about 1,000 vertical feet to then go climbing on some like granite, just about 10-minute drive from your house.
Yeah, and the way we rappelled down was like, both of our weight was like insane together going down.
Yeah, that's simul.
I'm legit sweating thinking about it. I got the vertigo for like 3 days after.
But you did so well, because I feel like you're so fearless and you're so fit in every single aspect of what that means, that you're like, oh, rock climbing and rappelling 1,000 feet, like that's no big deal. I got this.
I'm not fearless. I just do things. Like, I think like one of the biggest thing for me, like, I fear regret more than I fear anything else. So,
right.
I trust you, and I know you, so I know you're never going to put me in a dangerous situation. So it was like, okay, like, this is your chance to do that thing in your life. So let's do it. But I remember oh gosh, just thinking about it, it really brings me back. But the part that terrified me the most, so me and Sasha were like hooked to each other, and and we're like on this cliff and we're just standing up, and Sasha go, okay, Cam, like just go off the cliff and just hang there for me and then we'll start. And I'm like, why am I the one that has to hang off the cliff and wait for you? Oh man, I just remember the just full on trust of like letting go of that little tiny piece of floor that I was on, and just like literally you had my life in your hand. So I can't wait for people to see that.
I know. In lieu of this, we're gonna have to release this content. People are probably like, "Can we see it then?"
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, great. I mean, I think that you tapped onto a great point, though. Is like none of us are actually fearless. I think that it's just about managing fear and what we do with it, because fear is in many cases what keeps us alive and what protects us. But I think being open to new experiences and going off the side of a cliff in a way to speak, but also quite literally in this case, is the way to live your life really like at the most optimal level.
Yeah, and I mean, fear is such a big subject that I really want to like talk about with you, because like, you know, height is like one of the biggest fear of a lot of people, and that's like literally your lifestyle. And like sometimes you post you post stuff that you're like sipping coffee like freaking 5,000 feet off of the ground in this little hammock like on the mountain. And it's like, it's just so crazy to me. So I want to know with you, like, because I mean you've started just like climbing in a gym, and I'm sure even there was some time you're like, oh my God. I just want to know your view on how fear in your sport is obviously a huge part of it. Your sport is very dangerous. Like accidents happen all the time. People do it without rope. Like it's a huge component of your sport. So I'm sure you're very aware of the danger that comes with it. The worst thing that can happen to me in my sport is like kind of hurting a body part of my body and getting a surgery. So talk to me about, I feel like I went over too many things, but like talk to me about the whole aspect of fear in your sport and in yourself.
Yeah, I think that fear is something that is inevitable for me personally to feel in climbing, because you are putting your life in many ways at danger, but so is the same with a lot of things that we do in life. And I think that what I feel fear of and what someone else may feel fear of may be different. I think that fear is a constant, and in climbing, there's a lot of mitigation between what's a rational fear and what's an irrational fear. So in the process of doing larger projects, there's a lot that goes into this categorization, because you have to be aware of the risks that exist and how to kind of wade through them. There's not really going to be an experience really out in the wilderness when you're climbing a big wall, for instance, that fear and risk just aren't there, because climbing is inevitably like a dangerous sport when you break it down. And when it's practiced well, it can be quite safe, actually. And that's something that's contrary to what a lot of people know. Is, for example, the movie Free Solo with Alex Honnold. I mean, free soloing is something that a very, very small percentage of the climbing community actually does. And in that circumstance, if you fall, the mathematical certainty of death is quite high. But what I do is climbing with a rope. And so when you have a rope and you're using your gear and you know how to use your gear properly, that's kind of the way to ensure safety. And then there can be things like gear failure or tragic accidents. Honestly, fear has been a really big aspect for me in this last month, because I was on an expedition and one of our teammates actually had a really tragic accident in which the rope broke and it fell and it cut his rope and he fell 1,500 feet. And like, that really brings fear alive in many ways, because you realize the risk and the danger associated with adventures that myself and my teammates, like, we willingly sign up for, and we say like, I'm ready for this adventure and to take on and to mitigate what we can so that we can do it as safe as possible. I think the issue mistakes do happen. In this case, there wasn't even a human error mistake. It was purely just a tragic coincidence that happened with rocks breaking. So I think it's kind of like, how do you digest that and move forward? And that's something that I work with a sports psychologist through. I also do breathing techniques and visualization. And a lot is just by getting out there and having the experiences and getting outside of your comfort zone. So you start kind of like pushing what you're comfortable with. And then once you have that new experience, it's like almost widens that Rolodex of what your capacity is, so that you can still, within a certain level of willingness and acceptance of like what you're putting yourself on the line to do, because you have to be motivated and you have to believe in it, because I mean, otherwise, like, what's worth doing it for, you know?
Yeah. That's, I think, like, I mean, you talk about so many great things there, but for me, like, what I'm taking away the most is like be well prepared. And I also think, I mean, for me, as someone who is not in this climbing sport, it seems to be very glamorized, the people who like solo climb, but it's definitely seemed to not be the norm in the sport. Like, and I think, I don't know how like climbers that do climb feel about that, because to me it's almost pushing something that is so dangerous. Like the risk reward, like as an extreme person myself, I feel like I could understand the why some people want to do that. But also as someone who's like, you know, I want to have a family and all those things, I also don't understand that part. And I just sometimes wonder how like people in the sport like see it in general. Is it just, well, they can do whatever they want? Or like, is it something that it's a little scary of how much sometimes it gets publicized compared to like what is really being done like percentage wise in the back end?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because at the seams of it, I mean, with any sport, with climbing in particular, people are going to take different things out of it, and you get what you want out of it. Like some people are fully satisfied with going to the climbing gym, being inside, and having their goals driven there. And there's a competition world, there's a outdoor world, there's so many different divisions within the sport. I think that there is a fascination just within our culture for the possibility of fatality, and media that circulates around that possibility and that risk. And when it's more prevalent, like in free soloing, then maybe there's a little bit more attention and like that kind of like gripped feeling that you don't want to know, but you want to know, so you keep watching. And I think that you know, with the success of free solo, I think that Alex and Jimmy and the whole crew involved did such a good job of illustrating like a very honest story of who Alex is and what his pursuit is. But when it comes down to my feeling of free soloing, I think that I've spent a lot of my career and my life trying to educate people about climbing safety and increase traffic within our sport. Just get more people out there and encouraged to go and try it, and pushing their limits within reason. And I think that knowing the difference between free soloing and free climbing, for instance, that's one is without a rope and one is with a rope, is a start. But I think that, yeah, I mean, if people think about climbing and they think about free soloing and then relate it to being very dangerous, then it's just not a fully encompassed perspective of the sport. So hopefully people do like a little bit more due diligence on like, okay, how can I practice this sport safely? I personally don't free solo because I think that the risk is too high. I get a lot of exposure, and it's just kind of like that adrenaline from what I do already.
I bet.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
I each his own, and it's a complicated subject because I
Yeah.
think that to some people that is what makes them feel alive. So I can't really say that it's good or bad. It's just not what I choose.
Totally. And I do think that that movie was extremely well done for bringing the other aspect of him, like really knowing what he did put at risk. And he talked about, his why and all of that stuff, which I thought was like really great because it's not just like for the attention and, it comes from something deeper. And you do have to do in life what drives you. It's just some
Yeah.
people, like even in my sport, like for me, I stopped when my body started to fall apart because I knew I wanted a family and so many other things. But there's a lot of other athletes that's not stopping them, and they don't want to stop there, and that's their own choice. So
And it takes so much courage, to do what decisions you make as an athlete, when to say no, when to say yes, when to slow down. It's often, I find, easier to go fast than it is to go slow.
yes.
And that's something that I feel like I have to consistently learn, even like at the turning points of my career, when you're kind of learning these ways to say no to new opportunities because you have to ground yourself and focus on yourself. I think it's like a learning process, and you just have to kind of grow with it and figure out, okay, how do I just like really root down to my values and make decisions from there?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think like as it's like as you grow as an athlete and as you start to get like all this attention, it's almost like, I mean, I know it was like this for me, so I definitely want to know your side on this. But for me, it was almost like this could be it. Like this could be the opportunity of a lifetime. So all of a sudden you're just yes to everything. Like I'll do every project you ask me to do. And then, 1, 2, 3 years goes by, and like for me it was like, wait a second, I don't like doing that stuff. I don't like doing it's not in line with my value. I don't see my husband enough. Like there's all those other things that I would much rather be doing, but you almost feel trapped because if you say no, am I going to lose my sponsor? Am I going to lose for you, I'm assuming like maybe people who are funding your project, like people are going to make me feel bad, and I want people to like me. So how does that look for you?
Yeah, it's this hard balancing act, which I used to call it kind of like you find balance in your life. And that was kind of like the mantra that I went by when I was full-time student at Columbia, and like also a full-time professional athlete. And like my career was what was supporting me through university. But then I realized like it's not really a matter of balance. It's more about managing the chaos at times, and just prioritizing what you can in that moment and what seems the most important.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been a journey for me, and it continues to be quite frank. And is just like knowing exactly where I'm at that time, if I can take on more travel while also continue to train. And sometimes I have to, climbing is like this year-round sport if you let it be. So it can be more of a challenge if you're sitting down with your team and figuring out when you want to peak in your performance and how to prepare for an expedition. There has to be bifurcation between work commitments that take you away from training and then training itself. As I mean, you're like the master trainer and fitness guru. So I think you'd understand that more than anyone, periodization. But I think that it's hard because sometimes you do think like, I need to make a living. I need to continue to be relevant in my sport and do as much as I can. But then I also need to be a grounded human. And sometimes like I'll wake up and be like, I don't even really, I mean, it's ironic to say this with COVID and everything, but like, I don't want to leave my house today. I just want to like have an off day and being kind with yourself and being like, that's okay too. Like it's okay.
Yeah. It's so hard though. Like I know for me, like just being, I know I need an off day, but then I like start to shame and guilt myself. And that off day where like I'll still like start running on the treadmill and then I realize that it's dumb. Like I'll always start and 80% of the time I'll be fine, but there's this other 20 that I'm like, oh yeah, this is not gonna happen. But it's so hard when you have those huge goals and that pressure that you set on your own self. Like I'm sure you don't need many people to put pressure on you.
It's I would say one of the hardest things is to be kind to yourself, because I think that for me, for instance, like I get really anxious if I don't work out during the day.
Yeah.
And like it's almost like it's like a hangry feeling, but like I don't get hangry so much as I get like this workout anger if I'm like I haven't moved for like 2 hours. I really need to like go do something.
So lazy.
Yeah. And then you're like, I'm lazy.
Yeah.
I'm just losing progression. And then it's like when in retrospect maybe it was like a day or two and it's like it's all right.
Yeah, it's like nothing and then you come out way stronger and way better.
Yeah. Knowing when to recover, it's hard, like it's and right now I would say one of the most challenging things is figuring out that motivation when the world does feel very uncertain and travel off and we're all kind of just trying to make do with these uncertain situations.
Yeah.
And still finding that drive to like, put in the hours at home and work out and be like, this is for something. I'm not sure what yet, but
I totally understand. That's why, I mean, I've started to do those 10 a.m. live workout with people. And it's like for me to help them stay accountable. But the biggest thing is for me to stay accountable, because now in my head, I think it's sometimes easy to give up on your own self. But if, there's like, a couple hundred people that are going to show up every day, like, well, I better show up and be the right example. So that's my selfish way of giving back, but keeping
100%.
Keeping like, myself on.
Live and you're doing a workout. I mean, I did one yesterday with my friend Molly Mitchell. It was like, man, I don't want to keep doing these jump squats. I'm so tired, but all these people are watching me and maybe they're doing it with me.
Yeah, you're like, damn, my workouts suck. Let me keep smiling while I do it.
Totally. I'm like, how do people like look all composed in workout videos? Like counting's hard.
Oh my God. Seriously, me and my husband, we keep laughing because every time I'm doing a workout, I'll talk and I have no idea how many I did. I like lose my count every single time. So thanks God we had judges when I was competing.
Yeah, totally.
But okay, so you just came back from a huge travel, right? I think like, didn't you just like have a new first in your arsenal of First Ascent?
Actually, so most of this first part of the year, I was in Europe. I was in the UK. Well, I guess I started in Spain, and then I was in the UK doing like a speaker's tour for 2 weeks, which was kind of crazy. It was like a different city every night for 14 days, and my mom came with me, which was fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Great. And then I went back to Spain for like a climbing trip. So I was a little bit in and out, and then I jetted straight down to Mexico, which was kind of my world started kind of combusting at that moment. Like we had a really big plan and a video project in place, and kind of felt like all the seams came apart and we lost a good friend.
Yeah.
And we came back from Mexico and we honestly were pretty unaware of the severity of COVID at that time because it really affected the U.S. as drastically yet. And so my team and I, including Nolan's girlfriend, Savannah, who is my videographer, we were like, well, maybe we'll just like regroup and go back down to Mexico and do a different project, but really like honor what happened with Nolan. And so like the preparation started going forward for that. And then the whole nation kind of shut down and trip got a little bit tabled. So I've been home, which honestly, like I've found a lot of time to find gratitude in being home, and Boulder is such like a beautiful place to be. I think it's hard when I think about everyone in the world just suffering and all the industries that are being affected, but just trying to like stay positive, and like do what we can.
Yeah. Something I wanted to talk to you about is you travel so much. Like, how do you cope with that? Because for like I have a husband at home, and it's like you have certain people that is like your group of friend at home, and I know I'm sure you travel with a lot of your friend, and I'm like you have good support. I mean, you're such a good person that you have like a lot of amazing people around you. But how do you juggle with like just being away so much? I think it's amazing to have all those experience, but is there anything about this other side of being always away that it's like this I don't know how to say it, but this kind of black and white thing you have to juggle with?
Yeah. Travel can be a total grind sometimes. And I find that it can be hard to keep up with my training schedule when it turns out that maybe the hotel doesn't have a great gym and you're kind of like working out in the hotel room. I feel like with all these like at home workouts where you just need a yoga mat, I'm like, kind of know this world well.
Yeah.
But I think that something that I try and do is just manage all that I can control, because a lot you can't control when you are traveling. And so that means like just bringing my own food and having like a healthy regimen of routine that I do replicate wherever I am, whether that's like as simple as going to a local grocery store wherever I'm at and getting lemons for my hotel room or whatever it is, so I can have like warm water with lemon in the morning and have like a yoga mat so I can do my stretches and mobility work. But I think that like there definitely get to be trips where I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting on another airplane, or even, packing up and leaving home. And there's something that is nice. Like I love to cook and bake, and I never really get to do that when I'm on the road. So I think that what motivates me is because a lot of my trips are for my sport. I'm always going to these amazing places outdoors that really like revitalize me wherever I am. It's like 3 days of travel kind of suck that like go from like packing up, getting ready, and arriving at the place. And then it's like I can be there and I can kind of like build my new home wherever I'm at. I've gotten a little bit more mobile with that, but it definitely can take a toll on like having any sort of normalcy when it comes to my friendships. Like it's kind of like me and you, like we don't see each other too often. The good friendships are the ones where you just pick up where you left off. And so that aspect of friendship has been really meaningful for me, because you do get to have these friendships around the world and all these different places that I find is like a really cool aspect of the global connectivity that's provided through climbing. But yeah, I mean, I miss my cats and like my home life and on a relationship, like it can take its toll too. So I think just like being with someone who's understanding about it too is like key.
It's the best thing, I think. I mean, for me, having someone in my life that understands that I'll be pretty much gone all day, always, and come to bed and still think about my training session, and go travel for a month or two, and you do need someone who understands that, and I think it makes them also just so much more present when you do spend time together, because like when you're together and nothing else, which is so precious. All right, question for you. Your favorite place you've ever traveled to and why?
Ooh, that's hard. Like anywhere around the world?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that my favorite place that I travel to is actually Mont Tremblant, which is like
nice.
North of Montreal. yeah, my mom is from Montreal. It's where she lives, and we have a house in Montreal. And like, I grew up spending about half my year there, like summer breaks, winter breaks, spring breaks from school, and there's just something like very nostalgic about it. I really started climbing there, like in Montagne d'Argent and Val de Vide, and whenever I go there, it feels really like home. And I lost my dad in 2014, and we grew up in DC. It was kind of like a bifurcated childhood between like going to school in the DC area and then also spending a lot of time in the Eastern Canadian region. And so I think like the aspect of where is home, like that feels like home to me. And my cousins are kind of like my siblings. So we'd all like, they're similar in age to me, and my brother is just a year older. And I would say like, yeah, I think that of the places that I get to travel around the world, like there's so many breathtaking places, but where I feel the most at home outside of like my own home in Boulder is probably there. And so it does feel like my favorite place to travel.
I love that answer. And I feel like I can feel the feeling of that. I live really far away from where I grew up. And there's something about just sometimes I'll smell the grass with the rain that drips on it a certain way, and it brings me back to like those silly soccer practice or whatever, and it just feels so safe. Like no one's gonna judge me. Like, my mom might bring me a hot cocoa or something. It's really nice. I love that.
Yeah, our house is on the ski mountains. We'd ski in, ski out, and that was kind of my first sport, was skiing. So we grew up skiing there, like from when I was about 3 or so. But in the summers, we'd like walk around and like collect raspberries, and then like, just like the little things,
I love that. It's so cool. Also fellow Canadian, so what's the weirdest thing you've ever ate?
Oh man, that's a good question. I can think about it, because I've eaten some like weird things, just because like trying them. Maybe like a chicken foot.
Okay.
And like we were on a trip in like rural Indonesia, and we were just developing some climbing and sea kayaking there, and like the culture is normally like, you eat what the house prepared, and so you have these like very indigenous kind of like just like communal meals where the people from that area give you the bowl, and that's what you eat. And like I remember trying this like weird chicken bowl, and maybe that was kind of gross.
And you're like, thanks.
I kind of like rubber. I'm not that into it.
That is so funny. And you're like so grateful, and I'm sure they're so happy to host you. And it's like
this is great.
You're like, I'm not going to get sick tomorrow.
Yeah, totally. Often when I travel, I do like, I eat a lot of like plant-based stuff, but I do go vegetarian often when I travel, just because like it's hard to know like where that meat that you're eating is from, or like where stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, like so many of my friends got food poisoning when we traveled to go compete left and right, and I have like 100 pack of like protein powder in my bag so I can get, jerky and all that stuff, which I'm very surprised I never got cut at the border anywhere for bringing some animal protein. Maybe I shouldn't say this right now, but whatever.
They'll like retrospectively get you.
Yeah, they'll come back at me. All right, what is the most amount of time that you've gone without a shower?
This last summer, I was like on this like crazy jungle expedition in this little country called Sao Tome, which is off the west coast of Guinea in Africa. And we were in the jungle for 23 days. And the closest thing that we had to a shower was like we could hike down about an hour to the little river, and we'd bathe there. But we didn't do it so often because there were these big black cobra snakes.
Oh my
And
God.
like we saw multiple, and they're super poisonous. And so like we'd bring the anti-venom and stuff like that. But if you get hit by one of those, like it's like game over, you know?
I love
And
that you're talking about this so casually. Like, oh yeah, we just went down to the river with our anti-venom thing and just bait with the
that was
snake.
terrifying. We'd like wear snake boots. So probably about 23 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
But who cares? You're in the jungle, so.
I know at that point you're just like the issue was like it was raining and super hot and humid, but we were also trying to climb this jungle tower. So you're getting like dirt and chalk and just like moss all over ourselves. And then you'd get down from the wall and you'd be like just sweaty and disgusting. And then just crawl into your tent and be like, all right.
Good night. Oh gosh.
Tomorrow.
How good did that first shower felt after that?
Oh my God, like heaven.
Like you just stay in it for like an hour, just.
I feel like I wish that you could have that feeling every single shower. You know? Like it makes you realize like maybe I need a shower less often because like this feeling of the shower is just so glorious.
That is so funny. It's so true though. Like you do things and you forget how good we have it when we have it good, which we really do right now, even considering the situation we're in. Like if you have a roof over your head and access to food, like you have it pretty good.
Yeah, totally. It's like finding that gratitude in the small things. And I think like when you deprive yourselves of that, it comes back in such a full force.
Yeah. So, I mean, with everything that you do, and you have, gosh, so many insane stories that for you seem so casual. I feel like every time we talk, I learn something new about you, and you always say it in such a casual way, which is the funniest. But I want to go with you over like, just like you're such a big figure in your sport, like huge, and it comes with so much pressure and so much scrutiny, and I really want to just dive in a little bit on that portion and how you've overcome it. Like you have to be like really, I mean, I know for me too, but in climbing, like part of climbing, like you really have to check your body weight because you're obviously pulling yourself up, but also it seems like, and I've been through that too because I didn't really look like the other girl necessarily in CrossFit, but like social media love to rank us and rank you with what you look like, and it's even worse if you're popular and you perform good and jealousy is involved. So I wanted to kind of attack this subject with you because I feel like the past couple of years you've been through like a couple pretty intense scenario on that side.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I started climbing when I was 6, and I had my first endorsement deal when I was 12, and it was a little bit more in the limelight from when I was about 16 onwards. And I think that journey has traced a lot of self-growth on my own side, and I've changed and I've grown into a more ideally mature version of myself, but I'm still learning and I'm still like kind of growing into my own skin and sharpening my own tool of values. But I think that what I have learned is people are really quick to judge you without knowing you. And that is catalyzed by the fact that social media creates this false sense of knowing someone. And also it really bolsters this comparative culture. And in that world, there's a lot of scrutiny over like whether you deserve what you have and whether you look the part and whether you're good enough for whatever it is. And I think it's a really harsh spectrum to really try and like live by. And I think in the last few years, what I would say I've been learning more about is just how to really eliminate the negative energy in my life. And frankly, that even comes down to eliminating negative people. and caring about people's opinions that I can't really change. I think that there's people out there that have an opinion about me. Maybe they haven't even met me. But they craft an image, and if you don't fit what they like, or if there's any sort of insecurity or jealousy associated with that, then that creates this like intolerance.
Yeah.
And I think it can be really hard. When I was 18, I graduated from high school, and that was when I was really like, I wanted to win the world championships, and I was training super hard. In climbing, it is a strength to body weight ratio sport. So like what you have to pull up the wall is, I mean, it depends on like what your strength to weight ratio is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of misinformation in the sport over like how you can do that in a healthy manner. And I fell victim to that as well. Like I was at an extremely light weight. I definitely had my own mental demons that I was kind of like going through myself. But I think that the community response of like how that was perceived, and there is an article called Climbers Who Cheat to talk about climbers who were like too light as in like unhealthy, and like if someone has a form of an eating disorder, like that is not the healthy way to analyze what's going on. And it happens a lot across female athletics. Yeah. And I think that has been a journey for me that's really led to me taking more of an interest in nutrition and learning more about, I want to be a part of this sport and progress for a long time. Like I still have a lot more years of high-end climbing ahead of me, but you can't do that by depriving your body or treating it not in a healthy way. And so I think that journey has been tough. I think that like the instance that we've talked about a lot of like cyberbullying that I went through about, I guess it was like 2 years ago, was a big turning point for me in realizing like there are just people who are really insecure and jealous out there. And I think it's really important for women to stand up for themselves and to make their voices heard, and to use that as really like, just like we have to empower each other. We have to support each other. We have to say when enough is enough. And I think it's all just like a part of this journey of becoming more confident in yourself too. Yeah,
I feel like, I mean, even when I look for me, like most of my troll and bully for some reason are men. Like it's really like a huge majority of men. And I always like, my heart only breaks when I see a woman jumping into this. And and it's like, a man, like, I'm like, you don't understand like how it is to be, a strong woman in sport and, push the boundary. And, I don't really understand where it comes from, because I'm obviously not a man myself, so I don't know like that dynamic. But most of my trolls are men, and for me, it's so important that like when I see this happen, like that girl, we stick together, because if we don't, like, I do feel like the world is already set up to try to bring us down. So I really do feel like it's our responsibility to just say no, like this is not okay, and this is not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen to me, and you're not gonna do that to my friend, and this is it. And I feel like, when your cyberbullying happened, it was a really big deal, and it was very intense. And as much as you don't want to let it affect you, as much as you have your whole set of value, like it's really hard to not go back to doubting yourself, because I feel like as a woman, since we're born, people are telling us how we should look, how we should act, how we should do all those things. And I feel like for me, I spend most of my life just being, no, I'm going to be authentic. And I know I'm getting pushed back all the time, but I always need to remind myself that, I mean, right now I'm pregnant, and that's always been something huge for me. It's always been in my head, if I have a girl, I want her to know that her mommy did those things right, because I want that for her as a woman. So I don't know the gender, but I really hope it's a girl.
We'll keep that a secret if it's a boy. No, I totally hear that. You know, what I think was one of the hardest things about that whole time was just seeing how it could be divisive for some of our community, and for what happened there to be questioned of whether I did something wrong. And I think the fact that I was a woman standing up for myself against someone who had repeated actions and was ignoring me and my feelings, like I think that that's really, really toxic. And I do agree. Like, I think that there's almost like this old adage of there only being one seat at the table for women, and it kind of creating this like catty like society where women are competing against women. But I think that the most healthy and the most empowering thing that I see is like having friends like you know, like having friends like you and Kate and like really amazing women in my life who are friends or mentors or both, who we can be like this tribe together and lift each other up and work together. And when you succeed, it's like, this is badass and it's going to inspire me to want to push myself. You know, it shouldn't be like, well, shoot, now that she has that, like, I can't have that. And
yes.
I think that it's something, you know, I'm not a man, so I can't speak for men.
I know.
But I don't know if like the male culture experiences that as much as women. And I think that it was something that did kind of push this whole climbing episode of what we were just talking about, of like there being an amount of money within our sport and someone feeling like Sasha doesn't deserve what she has. And what's interesting is like I work really hard, and like everyone who has something, they put in a lot of effort. And like yes, I have privilege of having had a family who is like, you should do your sport, you should commit to passion. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was me footing my bills and me like really like negotiating with my sponsors and figuring out my own path. That I think that women can be discounted, you know, and I don't think that that is okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things that I'm the most grateful with my sport, and I think that was a huge reason why I wanted to stay at the top for so long, is I remember my first year competing was the first time I was around so many strong women. And I just remember my first CrossFit game, I was doing this workout against this girl, Christy Atkins, and I just remember I just remember her eyes when she was going, and I was like, man, she's going nuts. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I want to be more like her, and I wanted to be more like the other girl, and more like the other girl. And I literally was doing events at the game, and like I would like tell jokes to the other girl. I was like, I'm gonna get you, and like I was so excited to just truly be with a bunch of badass, and that was such a huge shift for me in my life, because I was bullied really hard by mean girl in high school. So I've never had this camaraderie with girls supporting each other. I've always had those girls being mean to me, sadly. And it's something that just filled my heart with so much joy and love that it's really hard for me to see the other side, because I know like for women, obviously, always comes from insecurity. And it comes from insecurity or culture, society, like almost like, you know, sometimes when you're a woman who stand up, like, oh, well, you know, put her on the side. Like, we don't want that girl who talks her opinion too much. So then everyone else kind of fall in line. But it's so important, I think, that those women keep standing up and keep, like, you know, getting out of that line, because I really don't think we should be in a line and just being one way. But it also comes with everything else.
Totally. I think it comes with, like, you know, femininity is such a dual gender effort. And it's like, it's the men that support women. It's the women who support women. And I think that when I break it down, like, my life, what I feel the most grateful for, and that's my loved ones, my family, my friends, my relationship, having the capacity to live in a place that I really love and do what I love to do for a living. And so I think that it's like, it is a human thing. Like sometimes I like am just like scrolling social media, and I'm not going to say I don't compare myself to others, because I do, you know,
same.
but if I start going down that rabbit hole, I'm just like, I need to put down my phone and like be present with what I have, because what I'm comparing myself with, it's not going to change the level of happiness that's in my life of like, what do I want? I want to succeed in my sport. I want to continue to live passionately and do what I love. And I want to have that love around me of family and friends of support, you know?
Yeah. And there's such a big thing that you don't see with social media. And it's like, well, what do their life really look like? You know, maybe I'm posting this picture that look awesome and I look all happy, but next thing you know, I like, you know, literally have like eating disorder, I don't have great relationship, and I spend all day just taking this one picture. And you know, and if it's something that you love, like, good for you. Like, I'm just saying we don't know the other side of the story. It could be also someone who just, this is what they want to do in life and they're living their own dream, but you just never know what comes behind. And that goes back to you, you know, and some people with me saying, well, you don't deserve this, I deserve it more. But the truth is, like, what tells you that? Because all you have is your own experience for what you've done yourself, but you don't know what, like, we've been through to be where we are. And, you know, trust me, if you went through my journey, I'm sure that you would think that I do deserve what I have, because I fought my way up and I clawed every freaking inches to be like where I am. And right now I'm still doing the same thing to, like, you know, build my business. And through all of this, try to keep the right value, try to keep representing the right thing. But I do think that the social media aspect of this is just everyone looks like they're an overnight success, and no one see the full spectrum of the story. You know, the loss of loved one in your life, the things that have shaped you, the changing country, there's so many, you know, lonely training session, the doubt, there's just so much that people don't see.
Yeah, there's so much to everyone's story. And I think that the way that I try and look at it is like, if someone has something, then they deserve it, because whether they worked for it like 80%, whether they worked for it 100%, like they worked for it. And that was a combination of timing, opportunity, luck, whatever it may be. And I think that the way that we can operate is just by trying to be our best selves. And I think in many ways, like, stay in your lane and focus on yourself, and try and be the best foot forward Sasha that I can be. And of course there'll be people who disagree with me, and there'll be people who will judge me and say I don't look like a climber, or I'm too heavy, or I'm too thin. And it's like, I can't do anything more.
They'll say that, climber or not, it doesn't matter. You're like,
Well, I think that's been really informative to me, is just like conversations like these where you start realizing, you know what? It's not just in this little world that I live. It's like it transcends so many different communities and professions, and it's just something that we can all bond together towards changing.
Yeah, changing for the better. And I agree with you. If someone has something, they deserve it. I don't care how they got it. And if they get it in a wrong way, like, I really believe that karma exists and life will catch you. And also, I think, like, for me, something, like, obviously when I got older that I've started to focus a lot was, like, you know, if I spend all this time comparing myself, first of all, I'm not creating. and I'm maybe going away from my authentic self by doubting if my authentic self is good enough, where my authentic self like pretty much is the best version of me. So gotta stay with that one. But also, you know, comparing yourself is like, okay, if this person is successful, what can I learn from them? Like, I might not agree, or maybe I don't want to, you know, act the way those people are acting, but they're obviously doing something right if it's working for them. So maybe instead of being, hey, Sasha, I think I deserve this more. Well, wait a second. Like, what is she doing that I'm not? Like, how is she presenting herself? Like, how is she negotiating, you know, her contract? How much is she working? And am I doing those things? Like, what can I learn? How can I grow from her? I think, to me, that's the logical avenue to do this, instead of, you know, just moaning on your couch that, you know, you don't have what they have, but meanwhile you're sitting on your couch.
100%. It's like, use that comparison and whatever it may be that you feel from social media, that I feel from social media, and use it as like inspiration. It's like, if there's someone who has something that I wish I had, then maybe there's a form of me that feels like, okay, that really resonates with me. I want to start doing more exercise classes or more tutorials or whatever it may be. And then there's things that I'm like, all right, so like that person's doing that. I definitely don't want to do that. So I'm just going to like say that they have success with it and be like, cool, observe from afar. And like, I think that that's cool too.
Yeah, I do wish I was much better at doing my makeup, but I have no patience for it. So I'm going to stick to the booty short and the workout section.
Yeah, totally. I feel the same. You know, I look at like so many like accounts that I follow around like food and stuff like that, where the food looks so amazing and like they're plated just right, and like I'm like, man, I really like to cook, but like my plate never looks like that. And I'm like, do I really want to spend the energy to create that? Like, not necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
To focus.
I mean, we both love to cook. I don't know if it's like a Canadian thing, but like just me being stuck here, like every night I'm cooking something. I just really love homemade food, and I completely hate trying to make it look pretty. Because it's cooked, I just want to dive in, destroy it, and then if I try to take picture, it looks terrible, and I'm like, I get frustrated.
I know, it's so hard. Well, when the quarantine's done, we'll have to like have a homemade cooking party and drink some wine and actually catch up in person.
Yes, and have maybe someone teach us how to take nice picture of food.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be faster.
You know, like I always think that like there's something really great that I learned from I studied business management at Columbia as well as nonfiction writing, and we learned in economics about the opportunity cost of time. And like I started using that for so many things. I was like, you know, this is not the cost of my time to do this. So like negotiating, okay, I'm gonna like hire this person to do this because that's like opportunity cost of time. And I mean, not to say that taking photos of my dinner is worth hiring someone to do, but I think an important aspect to just kind of recognize is like people have different fortes, and really honing in on what your fortes are and what you really love to do, and then focusing there, and the rest, like you can partner with people or you can like team up and work together, and the end result is going to be so much better.
I agree 100%, and I think that most people in life just want to be able to share their gift, and like my gift is not that, but it's like just finding that person, right, that is so excited about doing that you know they just want to be there, the same way that like, you know, for you have such a huge passion for what you do, and you'll most likely, you know, do it for free because you just want to keep doing it. Like I'll always train, I always want to coach people, I always want to, I mean, you know, I always want to share my nutrition knowledge, my training knowledge, because I'm so excited about my gift. And I do think that it's just finding those gifts in other people and building that team, and it's just so nice to have that. Hard to find though, but when you can find those little diamond people. Like, it's really cool to have that around.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, Sasha, I think this is it for us today. But it's not
Right.
it's not a goodbye. It's a see you later. But before we
Thanks so
go,
much for having me here.
okay, before we go, I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, where they can support you, like your YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Just sell yourself, please.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and YouTube as well. And I believe it's the same username. It's just my full name, Sasha Digiulian.
Digiulian, that's how you say it. Also, not Digiulian.
It's okay. It's a hard one.
All right. Thank you so much, Sasha, for joining me. I'm going to stop the live, but I'll still be there with you. And if you guys have any more question or whatever, please reach out to Sasha. She is awesome. All right. See ya.